There we go. My name is Mary Newton. I'm the president of Reading League Wisconsin, and I just want to welcome everybody to the final meeting of our book study on this book, The Writing Revolution by Judith Hochman and Natalie Wechsler. We're going to be doing chapters 7 and 8 today. We're not doing the final chapters in the book. So 7 and 8 will be it. Chapter 7 is all about creating an outline for multiple paragraph essays. And chapter 8 is all about crafting compositions in the opinion, pro-con, or argumentative line of. So that's what we'll be doing today. Please keep your mics muted unless you're sharing with the group. And if you need a certificate of attendance, I'll put a link in the chat box at the end of the meeting for you to make that request. And please do the request today because we'll send those all out in one batch tomorrow. So I'm joined today by several other members of the Reading League Wisconsin. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves briefly. And first we'll have Maura Moyle.
Hello, I'm Maura. I'm, like Mary said, on the board of directors for the Reading League Wisconsin. Although I'm currently in New Jersey, we decided to visit during a heat wave. So if I melt, that's why. No, I will try not to melt. So I'm very excited. It's been a great book study. Thanks to my colleagues on the board, Mary and Amy and Dorothy and Jeannie, everyone. I'm so glad to have participated.
Do you want to tell everybody what your day job is, Maura?
Oh, I'm a professor at Marquette in Milwaukee in the Department of Speech Pathology and Audiology.
Thank you. I wanted to get those, that cred in there for you. Okay, next is Jeannie Shop. Jeannie?
Hi, good morning, everyone, and glad all of you are here today on our final visit. And yes, congrats to my colleagues for a top-notch book study. I currently serve in Sturgeon Bay School District as a reading specialist, interventionist, coach, going into my 34th year in public education.
And Dorothy Morrison. Dorothy's a new face for those of you who have been on our book study since the beginning. Dorothy is joining us for the first time today. Dorothy?
Hi, I'm joining you from Danbury, Wisconsin. I'm retired from Ohio State, but I love being on the Reading League, working with these people, taught composition and reading for decades. So really happy to be here.
Great, thank you, Dorothy. And then we have Amy McGovern, and because Amy's going to be our leader in this effort today, I'm going to have her introduce herself and then just go ahead and get us started.
Do we want to get our picture first?
Oh, okay, let's do a picture. And so if you don't want to be posted on Facebook, you can stop your video now, but you all look so good this morning. I think you should leave your videos on for the picture. Okay, Jeannie.
All right, everybody smile.
Perfect. Okay, Amy, it's up to you now.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So good to be here. Sorry I missed last week, had some personal stuff going on. Okay, we're going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen. I am Amy McGovern. I work for CISA 9, which is one of 12 cooperative education agencies in the state of Wisconsin. And my role is really to support all things literacy. So I work with, we have 22 school districts in our region, and I work with quite a few of them related to their literacy initiatives. So we are going to jump into the book study on chapters 7 and 8 today, and learning together, inspiring change, right? So please do continue to share in the chat where you are from and what you do. It is really fun for us to see that. And I'm glad to see, I see that Ian is a high school teacher, chemistry. That's awesome, from Brooklyn, New York. That's really exciting. This is a great chapter to be thinking about expanding from the summarizing chapter and moving into how to do a multi-paragraph essay. So you'll have to decide if that's going to work for you, but lots of good review as well. This is our last book study. So I'm going to share in the chat this bit.ly that I put together that has some resources in it and very useful information on the bit.ly. including a scope and sequence from Patton on writing, which is one of the best I've ever seen, as well as some other resources related to writing and the writing revolution. So check that out. Okay, I see lots of folks from all over the country. So far, I haven't seen anybody from outside of the country yet. We've had some Australians and some other folks from other places join us. Okay. And let me just back up one slide. This is the presentation for today. It has some links in it and some questions if you'd like to follow along. Okay. So syntax this is a quote from Louisa Moats from a discussion that she had, and one that Dorothy remembered from when we were doing our planning session. Syntax is the cognitive structure that meaning hangs on. And we think of syntax, we think of that sentence structure, every word has a purpose in the sentence to convey meaning, and oftentimes printed syntax is very different from spoken syntax, especially in complex text. So kids can get hung up on the meaning and gaining the meaning because they're lost in the syntax. And as a reminder, we know that the sentence is really important to all of this. I was with a group of teachers on Tuesday, and a lot of them are special education teachers, and they were, not complaining, but talking about the challenges of getting students to understand longer passages of text, paragraph, pages. And so, the reminder is to come back to the sentence and to start at that sentence level comprehension, even at the oral language level, doing oral language where they repeat the sentence and you ask them those WH questions about the sentence. The Writing Revolution has done a wonderful job of giving you strategies related to expansion and combining. And 4 of the things that have popped up over and over again in our book study and in the book, the because, but, so strategy, the use of appositives, where we have a noun phrase that's describing the noun that came right before it, conjunctions and transitions, how are those used for combining and expanding. So we wanted to give you, even though it's real early in our session, a couple of minutes to just process what you've remembered about the sentence level work. If you've read the text well, even if you haven't, this is a chance to ask others in the group, help me understand what an appositive is, or go to those chapters. We want to give you a couple of minutes to just process out and reflect. What did you take from the learning around sentence level work? And how will you use that information going into this next school year? Keeping in mind that sentence level work, they recommend, and I too, that you want to do work at sentence level from kindergarten straight through high school. It's very important to keep building on their sentence level knowledge. So with that, I'm going to go to the breakout rooms. Mary, do you have those ready to go?
I'm going to just pause our recording.
Coming back in. That wasn't a ton of time, but it was a little. So if you'd like to share out and what your highlights were on the sentence level pieces, and we'd love to hear some of your thoughts or discussion that you had. Just take a couple of minutes to share out.
You can either unmute if you have something you want to share with the whole group, or put something in the chat.
I can share.
Thanks, Carol.
Our group had four people, and I think 3 of them are doing this by themselves. They're the only teacher in their school that are doing them. So that makes it so much more challenging. But they saw the value of starting at the sentence level. They're a 3rd grade teacher, a 1st grade teacher. I'm not sure what Robin was, but I feel so much more fortunate because I'm a literacy coach for a K through 3 with K through 3, and all 4 times 6 teachers, 24 teachers are being encouraged to stop doing Lucy and pick this up. And we're thinking, we're trying to figure out how to do it. We haven't figured it out yet, but thinking about plugging it in shorter bits in science, math, social studies, read alouds, that kind of thing. But the planning part everyone wants to plan. They want to have their week planned, their month planned. We haven't figured out how to do that. So if you have any suggestions on that, would be very happy to hear that.
Yeah. Are there other Lucy folks on the chat?
Amy?
Yeah.
This is just a little tangential to what Carol talked about, by the way. Hi, Carol. OH. Okay. Ian had some wonderful ideas. He's in Brooklyn and he's a science teacher. And what he's doing with his science classes fits into our topic today. So I'd really like him to share what he said. I thought it was wonderful.
Hi, everyone. I'm an earth science chemistry teacher from Brooklyn, New York. One thing that I have, what I was talking about with Shannon, right? Shannon, yes. Sorry if I messed up your name. What I would like to do more of in the upcoming years, one of my goals for next year is to use more claim evidence reasoning with science, so that it brings more writing into the classroom, because sometimes science can be very like, this is what the answer is and that's it, and then you move on. But having kids explain their reasoning why before, or even what their thoughts are before, or even explaining after, to try to do a formative assessment, is something I want to do for next year, like more of.
That's great. That's really excellent. And that'll help them really understand the content better, as you know, that's the whole idea behind the writing revolution, is to really understand the content better. Yeah. Celeste, I see your hand up, or are you just agreeing? Yeah.
Yes, I was saying that we had a group also, and I like to thank the person that shared the Lori and Melissa Love Literacy. But as our district, we actually incorporated the TWR strategies this past school year. And we did a lot with incorporating it into a lot of content areas. We couldn't get all schools, but a lot of our schools used it. And they found a lot of success with starting with the sentence level and moving on to the other, to the sentence level, and then scramble sentences, expanding sentences, then going to the planning part. So it was very beneficial. And it was interesting to find that even in the high school, they started with that level as well. And they were excited, saying that the children coming to them now with that prior experience of learning about these strategies, they'll be able to answer questions and respond when it comes to the ACT and the Wisconsin Forge. So it was great knowing that these strategies that they are learning it's going to help them in the long run.
Yes, and I think that's the benefit of doing it school-wide, because then they keep building on these skills and keep applying them in harder content, which is totally the goal. So thanks for sharing. I saw in the chat that we had someone mention the self-regulated strategy development, the writing strategy, and I know that is mentioned by Stephen Graham in his work, and it is a well-researched strategy. If we can find the links to it, or Amber, if you want to share something more, that would be great, because I think that's a very strong complement to what's in the writing revolution. And back to Carol's question on the combining Lucy, the district that I work with that's using that for the younger grades, they've just added explicit sentence work into their all of the work with the primary age students, just really explicit teaching of a sentence structure using the books that they're reading about. So that's a very beginning step, and like you, they're trying to figure out what to take out and what to. It's not an easy process at all. So that's good work, though. It's the right work to be doing. Okay, any other comments about the sentence level work? And if not, we'll go on. Okay. Chime in anytime, put your questions in the chat. It's all good. This is for you. So chapter 7, this is just our outline page to show what was in chapter 7. It was all on moving from on to composition, the multi-paragraph outline. And I want to point out that the end of chapter 6 kind of primes you to move into this chapter 7 with the summary piece. We'll come back to that in a moment. And really that's picking up off the idea of outlining at the end of chapter 6, when we're doing the summaries, that's the beginning of learning how to outline, and that's picked up here in chapter 7. Then we get into that multi-paragraph outline component, which really, depending on how you are trying to process which level you work with, that's what I mean. If you work with level 1 students, you're probably not going to do the in-depth multi-paragraph outline to the same degree that you would with middle school, high school, because of the use of a thesis statement. But if you're with those little ones, the transition pieces we're about to discuss, that's going to be really useful. Then there's a whole section on topic versus thesis, and the body paragraphs, and the introduction of the GST formula, which we're going to talk about today, and finally ending with drafting and revising. So we won't be able to cover all of these in detail, but we have selected some elements to call out that we think will be useful to you, beginning with that transition outline and the book report outline.
Amy,
yeah.
before we go on to that, one thing that the book points out and that I just want to emphasize is that, you know, when all of a sudden we're starting to talk about the composition level as opposed to the sentence and paragraph level, and we, you know, automatically think 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. But the authors say that really, if you're doing the writing revolution, by the time the kids get in 3rd and 4th grade, they should have the single paragraph outline process pretty well mastered, and they're ready to do multi-paragraph writing, and as long as they're using the outlining format to help them do that. So don't think of this as all secondary level. There are some kids as young as 3rd grade that are ready to write these multi-paragraph compositions.
And we know that, you know, like Carol mentioning Lucy, the expectation is that you're just writing and writing and writing, and that's not realistic, but certainly with good training and teaching, we can set them up to be much, much more successful. So especially if you're using the content. So this transition outline is a 2-paragraph example. It is a really helpful stepping stone into that multi-paragraph. This is what you could do with 2nd graders with, you know, you're doing that paragraph sentence level stuff with 1st graders and moving into how do you get details into your little story that you're writing, or a little outline from whatever book that you've read. This is a great way to move into that. So we've got the topic that you're writing about, the topic sentence, 3 details, your 2nd paragraph with a topic sentence, 3 details, and then your closing sentence. And if you turn back to page 145, you'll see from the previous chapter, just a nice priming of creating the outline from the summary, which I just really enjoy how this book builds on itself and how the concepts keep coming back and get reused in more complex ways. So back on page 143, there's that summary sentence, the who, what, when, where, why, how, to help you create the summary sentence. And then it's turned into an outline where you, again, you use that who, what, when, where, why, how, or not, maybe not all of the questions, and you create your details in note form. So there's some good examples in the book that demonstrate how to do that. But it's, again, it's a stepping stone leading to this transition outline.
You can see how this works as a transition, because the transition outline is, it's very similar to the single paragraph outline, and that has a topic, and then the 1st paragraph topic sentence details, and then the 2nd paragraph topic sentence details. The only difference really between this and the single paragraph outline is you don't do your concluding sentence until you finish both of your paragraphs, and then your concluding sentence needs to cover paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, right? So, but it's just like, it's one step beyond the single paragraph. So you're not throwing them off the deep end into multi-paragraph outlining right away.
Yeah, so here's an example from the book on page 156 on national ID cards. Very straightforward. Will national identification cards keep us safe or invade our privacy? So we've got our the details for the 1st paragraph, And then the second paragraph's topic sentence, details, and the third. And you can see the closing sentence and the topic sentence, if you compare the two, will national identification cards keep us safe or invade our privacy? Closing sentence, national ID cards is a topic that clearly has two sides. So rewording of the same concept, not exactly identical, which as a primary, I'm thinking of third graders that I worked with in my previous district where we would score their writing together as a team, 25 teachers coming together to score 600 papers. And looking for these elements of a topic sentence and a concluding sentence. And sometimes they were identical, but we always tried to get the kids to reword their closing sentence and use this template. So absolutely, third graders can learn to do this very, very well.
And there's no magic about 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs. It's just the transition outline is just the structure and can have as many paragraphs as you think it needs to have.
Yes, but I would encourage less is more with the younger grades.
Start with 2. 2 is a good number to start with.
Yes. So also keeping in mind with the level 1 students, and of course this extends into level 2, but it is it's the book report. So they give you a nice template. I don't think there's anything, excuse the pun, revolutionary about this book report outline, but except that it's, it's nice and clean and simple. You've got your introduction, the book summary with the question words, and then they give their opinion last. And sometimes we find that kids, they give their opinion first. I like this book because, instead of like, so this is a nice way of getting to what are the facts about this story? What's the introduction with the title, the author, the setting, the main idea, and then a little bit of summary on the plot. And then you tell whether or not you like it or not and why, and who you think you would be most appropriate for. So in terms of just an organizing framework, very useful for kids to internalize this structure because it helps them also identify fact versus opinion, right? Like, what is the story actually saying, not your interpretation or your opinion of it.
And the one thing that you'll notice if you look at the blank template on the left and then the exhibit that's filled that says on the right, there's one difference between these two, and that is that the one on the left has a space for a thesis statement. And thesis statement is something that I think scares a lot of students as well as a lot of teachers. You go, thesis statement, what is that? But I'm sort of mystified as to why thesis statement is in here on that book report template. The one on the right does not have it, and to me this makes much more sense, and is a gentler step going from single paragraph outline and moving up toward multiple paragraph writing.
Yes, and I see Kayla put a comment in here for kindergarten, thinking 1 sentence for each as we progress through the year and give sentence stems to help out. 100% agree. And I think a lot of this should be modeling with the teacher. Like if you've done a read aloud, then you are demonstrating the thinking and getting the kids to share with you. And then of course they could all have their own opinion about the story. And maybe that's what they're writing is their last opinion sentence, because I think we sometimes jump too quickly to assigning writing for kids when they don't have the skill set yet, especially in kinder. So I would suggest a lot of modeling and leading through that, a lot of shared writing experiences. Okay. So this one is, again, the book report filled out a little bit more. We've got a book example here. And remember, this is here as a reminder that on the outline, it's always note form, always note form. So, and again, I think that was never really made clear, in my teaching when I was a classroom teacher and supporting teachers. I think that kids would sometimes write in phrases or like sloppy sentences. And this is really encouraging those clean notes so that you can turn the notes into a sentence. And we think back now to that sentence level work. The summary sentence is actually modeling how to turn that middle section into one nice, concise sentence even. It could be more than one, but following the summary sentence, it might just be one. Comments, questions, or wonderings on that? Okay, so we transition from the transition outline in the book report to the multi-paragraph outline in the thesis statement. And a thesis statement, I think Mary's right. I mean, how many of you, even as adults, I remember working on my master's and just struggling with creating a thesis statement that was what I really was trying to convey, and working over and over and over again with my advisor on getting down that the exact wording. So it's intimidating, I think, to all levels of us, right? So it requires the students to think about those main points that are in the composition, especially if you're writing. In this case, the thesis statement is coming from the content that you've been studying and the work you've been reading, and maybe the videos. In Wisconsin, we define text broadly to include video and audio as well as print. So whatever learning you've done around this content, now we need to pull out those main points and think about the tone and the text structure that will be used in your writing to help us craft a really nice thesis statement. So, and it's going to convey those main themes of the entire composition. And I cannot stress this enough. You have to do this with students over and over and over again, because there's so much going on with pulling out. Think back to our earlier chapters with main idea versus supporting detail. You know, you can just imagine the little nuances coming out that kids remember, but might not at all be relevant to adding into a thesis statement. So all that work leading up to this is so important. And you can see additional examples of this on pages 163, 164. So examples of a thesis statement. This is one right from the book. We thought about the two, this first example is a little bit more basic. It's urgent that problems associated with rising sea levels as a result of global warming be addressed in the next decade. One clean, concise sentence versus a tougher one that's got a cause and effect with that subordinating conjunction. If global warming is not taken seriously worldwide, comma, coastal cities will be in danger. So these have a very different feel, don't they? Like the personal judgment one versus this like larger, cause and effect will be in danger. There's an urgency to the second one that is not as powerful in the first one, but they're both good. So again, that goes back to tone, to the structure, to the audience, how you craft the thesis statement. All of that is relevant as you're thinking about the main ideas, which are equally addressed in both of these examples.
And very helpful to look at pages 164 and 165 because they give examples of thesis statements for different types of writing. These are just two of the types of writing, the personal judgment or opinion, and the cause and effect, but there are examples in here for other types of writing as well. So take a look at 164 and 165. I think this is the kind of guidance that students find very helpful. What format should your thesis statement take, depending on what type of composition you're doing, what's the structure of the composition, and how that affects the thesis statement.
And with caution, I say you could also probably look at these and reflect on what might be a level 1-ish thesis statement and what might be more of a level 2. So I'm looking at there are a number of effective strategies to combat the effect of rising sea levels. Now the wording in that is not level 1 wording, but the sentence structure and just the simplicity of that statement strikes to more of an easier way of putting down the statement versus some of these others.
Amy,
Yeah.
another thing to consider with kids who struggle to write a thesis statement is to have them write what we call a working thesis statement. And then as they write, they can go back and make that thesis statement as precise as these are. Some kids can't reach this level to start with until they actually flesh out some of their ideas.
Yeah, and I think that's really appropriate when you're thinking about middle school, high school, that their working thesis statement might not be this juicy as what you have here. It might be very basic, and then you're adding to it. So that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I could see a thesis statement, global warming is a big problem, and
Right.
then as you work through and you put your details, then you go, oh, okay, I've made all these points or whatever. Then you can go back and make your thesis statement more reflective of all the details you put down.
Which is really harkens back for me to that sentence expansion, right? So we have our kernel sentence, global warming is a big problem. And now we have to make this a much more detailed, thoughtful, what are we going to discuss in this? So that whole idea of the kernel sentence and a sentence expansion, it never goes away. It's always there. How do we make the sentences better, more robust, more specific? And in this case, a larger thesis that's going to carry through the whole story, the whole paper. So the multi-paragraph outline, again, it's revolutionary in its simplicity. We can see pages 158 through 162 examples of the multi-paragraph essay. And one thing that is interesting about their work is they really do want the students to have a pretty robust thesis statement at the top. So you will have done the heady work of thinking about that sentence, and so that it's on your outline, helping to guide you as you're going. Now, William would argue that you would build your body paragraphs first and then come back to the thesis statement. So I don't know that there's a right or a wrong, but I'm wondering that if you have done this heavy lift that Hochman and Wechsler talk about with the sentence level work, if the students, and with the summary writing, if they wouldn't just be prepared to create a pretty strong thesis statement up to that point, right? Because they've done all this work preparing them for this. By the time they're in middle school, it feels like it wouldn't be such a stretch if you were doing this all along in elementary.
Yeah, and if you were doing your your planning steps for your writing, and you were doing brainstorming of just listing of ideas and so forth, you get an idea of what you're going to be putting here in set paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. You can kind of take some of your thoughts and organize them and say, I've got these 3 main thoughts that kind of hang together. Then it leads from there to you can incorporate those ideas into your thesis statement. And even though this is a little bit different from William Van Cleve, where he's saying leave your thesis statement until you've finished your essay, then come back and write that, but this also has some of that in it. You do your thesis statement, but then before you do your introduction and your conclusion, you do your detail paragraphs. You do your paragraph 2, 3, and 4, however many you have. Then you do your introduction and your conclusion, those 2 paragraphs. So there still is that idea of don't necessarily write everything in the order that it's going to appear in your composition.
Yeah, and I think both Wechsler's work and I'm going to give Hochman the credit because it's the Hochman method. Hochman's work and William's work would really be aligning with that brain dump, as Dorothy likes to say, like before you begin writing, you're going through together. And remember, this is multiple times practicing this and creating that list of things, getting the kids to contribute. Maybe they're going back into their text, they've annotated, they have their own notes, and now you're sharing out and developing this list that will be used to decide what's going to be in our first paragraph, what's going to be in our second paragraph, and I'm talking about the body paragraphs. What's the first body paragraph, the second one, And you can use that to begin to organize your thinking so that by the time you come to this outline, you have highlighted on your list what you want in on these details in each of those 3 body paragraphs. So again, internalizing this process, building the cognitive routine is what matters. We want kids to not be flummoxed when you say you're going to write a 5-paragraph essay and they just start writing, which I've seen both of my own teenagers do. It's like, okay, no, you need to plan. And that produces much higher quality. So you're spending all of that time, a lot of the time, in the planning stage before you put pen to paper in the drafting. Whoops. Okay. So anything else to add on this before we go on to the GST, ladies, gentlemen? Or any questions or wonderings or stories that you have about this that reaffirm? Thank you, Amber, for sharing the link there. I'm going to open that as, copy that as well. There's also a free, I think I have it, I think I have it on the Padlet, the things from Graham and the National Institute of Education. There's some resources there that are free. Okay, going on. Creating that introduction, the GST, the general, specific, thesis. Those are the steps, GST, general, specific, and thesis. These are on pages 168 through 175. This is a great example of this great opening paragraph. Penguins are among the most popular animals, general statement. However, comma, they have become an endangered species as sea ice disappears from their habitats, more specific. And now we have our thesis. Rising sea levels are among the most dangerous effects of climate change and should be viewed as an urgent issue. So this is a great opening. Did somebody unmute? I heard. Okay, good. So GST, teaching kids how to go from that general, specific to thesis, doing lots of, maybe this is all you're doing as a way of priming them for that introductory paragraph. This is a solid one. You've got this general statement, a specific statement, and then our thesis. Great opening paragraph to a paper. And then for the closing, you reverse the order. You restate your thesis in a different way. You have a different specific detail that you're calling out from your paper. And then you've got the general summary at the very end. So that's your closing paragraph. So these 2 triangles bookend your paper. There are a lot of resources on the Writing Revolution website that you can create a free login for. And you've got the outlines here. These are all just ready to be downloaded. You've got paper versions in the back of the book as well to copy, but it's nice to have the digital version. The appendices have paper copies to copy from. So if you haven't made a login to their free site, please do so you can have access to all these great resources.
And it's a combination of templates that they've given you to work with. And when you go to the shared resources that educators have put on there, they'll take a topic that they've been studying or an article that they've read, and then they post activities that they've used with that particular content. So that's really helpful to look at, I think.
Agreed, totally agreed. Okay, we're going to do a short breakout room on single paragraph versus multi-paragraph. What was your takeaway? Just processing with each other. What did you take away from chapter 7? Okay, we're gonna save sharing out until our last breakout room so we can get through the chapter 8 information. But if there's something burning you want to share right away, please put it into the chat because we know that it's important for you to process. So Dorothy's going to chime in quite a bit on chapter 8 here. We're going to get into taking a stand, writing opinion, pro, con, and argumentative essays. You've got the outline here on this slide on what is important in this chapter. And let's just jump in. So there are 3 steps to argumentative writing: an opinion, a pro-con paragraph, and pro-con essays. That's what they want you to practice in order to be able to write argumentatively in an argumentative piece. Keeping in mind that your K1, 2 students are probably just going to stay in the land of opinion writing. And I know that the standard suggests that 5th graders be able to write a pro-con kind of an essay, which is difficult for sure, even for 5th grade, but a paragraph, doable. An essay, we're going to move into with guidance and support, being able to do that for sure in the intermediate grades and then in middle school and beyond. So these topics lend themselves, you got to be sure you've chosen a topic that is really strong and can allow for debate based on fact. Not every topic is going to work. And of course, the topic should be embedded in whatever it is you're studying. There are, go ahead, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that is a real challenge. That's why I loved what Ian said at the beginning, that when he teaches earth science, he has them write the claim, evidence, reason, just a simple paragraph. But that's the beginning of this. As soon as you make a claim, you're into trying to persuade somebody to at least listen to your point of view, if not adopt it. So,
do you want to briefly talk about the difference between a claim and a thesis, Dorothy? Is that something I can put you on the spot on?
Actually, I think they're the same thing.
Okay.
A claim and a thesis. The thesis is a very precise claim. Maybe that's the biggest difference. But there are some examples in this book where there's a question that's called a thesis. And with my training, and I was just talking to Ivy, she's had a lot of training with this too. You would never put a question as a thesis. Your question could be a good opening sentence, but it's not a claim. It opens up a discussion, but it doesn't make a claim that you have to support. So that's probably enough for now, Amy, unless some questions come up.
And I think
Okay.
one of, as we were preparing this, Dorothy made a really good point that I think is worthwhile keeping in mind as we go through this chapter. And that is that a lot of our kids are going to have trouble, especially these days, distinguishing between what's a claim or a, what's their opinion and what's a fact, right?
Yes.
Because they're growing up in this era of alternative facts and opinions expressed as facts. And, it's like, I almost feel like as long as they express it forcefully enough, that's a fact, So I think we need to keep that in mind, that as we go through and have kids writing things, that they may have a little trouble distinguishing between opinion and fact.
Yes, I think Amy covers this a little farther on, where we pick up the kinds of internet sources that may be more reliable than others. So,
yes.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, this book says that we need to teach them to distinguish fact from opinion, but I couldn't find a place where it defined a fact or told us how to do that. So that's something else to think about.
Yes, definitely. So we have this kind of basic slide on opinion, pro, con, and paragraphs and essays. This one just calls out a little more detail to help you define what they're looking for a little more clearly. For the pro, con, for the opinion piece, just one perspective, your own. For the pro, con paragraph, one issue with evidence to support it. One paragraph for the pro, one for the con. Pretty straightforward. And then the essay, you're going to you're going to have that number 2, but you're going to add on intro and conclusion. So it's a nice scaffolding up, so moving you into that more complex argumentative writing, which begins around page 183. Jump in anytime, Dorothy.
Well, I love this. I love this statement. Argumentative writing is the most effective of all the writing genres in sharpening analytic thinking skills. It is. And at the college level, I have seen students start with one opinion, and by the time they were through researching and analyzing the credibility of their sources, they had switched positions. And I think that's a critical skill. Somebody mentioned the great books in the chat here. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I love the great books. Yes. Great book, Facts versus Opinions. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to go back? Yeah. Consider the evidence. This is perhaps one of the most important points here. Where is your evidence from? If you're citing facts, is it in a peer-reviewed journal? Does it appear in a reputable source? Did any other researchers come up with the same set of facts? In other words, is what you're calling facts corroborated science? What's convincing here and what isn't? And then the ability to take the evidence on both sides that you see and then agree with some and disagree and explain why. That's why I loved what he said at the very beginning of this, that his students in earth science had to make a claim, give the evidence, and then their reasons for why that evidence backs up the claims. That's the essence of critical thinking. And, you know, I don't think I'm stretching it to say that a democratic society depends upon its citizens' ability to analyze and think critically about issues. So use the yes, no, okay, but, claim, counterclaim. And I think Amy has a new slide to go with this.
Yes. So we had our basic outline, the transition outline that might be appropriate for a 3rd or 4th grader to be working on. And then we have it same topic, but now we're writing it from the standpoint that's including a thesis statement. And we've got a subordinating conjunction. Although national ID cards may provide more security, they will violate our rights to privacy. So that's a pretty strong claim. Our GST is not filled out, but we need a general, specific, and then the thesis statement. The claim, the counterclaim, the claim that is proving the whole violation of privacy, and then your conclusion statement, which is the reverse, the other triangle, the other direction. So again, noticing all the note form on this. So you might have your big idea dump that you've done to remember everything that was learned about related to this topic, and then you're sorting them into these paragraphs with the notion of proving your claim, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add? Feeling good?
No, I don't think so. The 3rd paragraph there usually reconciles the claim and the counterclaim. And that's where you'd either concede a point or refute the counterclaim and then kind of tie it up in the conclusion. And this is a fantastic mental exercise. And if you can guide the kids through this, kudos. This is wonderful stuff.
So just to call back to chapter 7, critical thinking and evaluating sources. Yep, distinguishing between fact and opinion. Critically evaluate your sources. And I think of the middle school teachers and the elementary 5th and grade teachers I've worked with, they do have a nice, usually you're providing the students with the sources that they can choose from. So they're sort of pre-vetted, but I think there does need to be why is this a good source, right? How do we evaluate that? And I know librarians have a big thing on that as well in their library media time, getting kids to look critically at sources. The question is, are the kids taking it in or not? You know, I don't know. What do you think, teachers? Are they internalizing it, or are we just, you know, yelling our opinion louder and thinking it's fact?
I think one of the problems here is in some homes, the kids hear so much opinion that isn't backed up by facts that, you know, yeah, I think we have to be aware of that situation.
Yeah, I think the phrase "do your own research" has done us a lot of harm. I mean, there is a place for it, but there's also some challenges with that.
Yeah.
So we want to give you time to process not only the information we just talked about, but also to think back on the scope and sequence from Patton, as well as what the pacing guides that are in the Writing Revolution, because this is our last session. We want to be sure that we're wrapping up and giving you that big picture as well as these minute details. Yes, we will put our email addresses, Carol, into the chat. That would be absolutely fine. Okay, so if you are looking, I'm going to just open up the, oh, I don't have it open right now. I have to I'm going to stop sharing really quick because otherwise I'm going to make you all sick. So let me just quickly go to the slide I'm looking for. And capture this, put it into the chat. Okay. Yes.
So in the Writing Revolution book itself, when you're thinking about fact versus opinion, one of the chapters, and I'm not quite sure which one yet, it does discuss and share that you should encourage the children to look at a variety of internet sites, check the end part of it, and determine, you know, if it's valid. And if you're looking for something, put in remember we're doing note taking, so they're talking about keynotes and phrases, and put your key phrases and keywords and phrases, and looking through, once you put that in a Google search or any type of search, seeing if that same word or phrase comes up often in several different responses to your search, and then checking the validity of that source as well. So it does offer some suggestions for checking for the sources.
Yeah, thank you, Celeste. It does. And it recommends the .gov and the .edu stamps as being the most reliable. Thank you for bringing that up.
Ugh, my Google is freezing up on me. Hang on. I stuck the bit.ly into the chat, and I just have to close this one more time. And so what I want you to look for is the Padlet. Sorry, I'm having Google issues here.
Celeste, is your hand still up?
No, I'm sorry, I'll take it down.
Oh, no, you're fine. If you had another comment. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I just also posted in the chat the link to request a certificate of attendance. So all you have to do is click on there, and it's a real quick form.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties all of a sudden.
And I put all three of our Reading League email addresses in the chat also.
Okay, almost there.
Okay. Any other questions while we're waiting?
Or comments?
Yeah, or comments, exactly.
Okay.
Where's my gal from Ohio who asked if we'd have, Carol, there you are.
So, yeah,
Do you have any questions?
I do, but I don't know that they pertain to this topic. I
Okay.
wondered about the assessment, the beginning of your assessment on the Writing Revolution website. It's several pages long. And should we give that to first grade, second grade, third grade in August, September, and just see what they can do?
I think the assessment is useful. And I also think there's reason to do just a paragraph, like give them a topic, an open-ended topic, and have your clear rubric that you're scoring it from, because it creates baseline data for you to build from. What are the needs of this group of students? And especially if you can, the scoring with rubric scoring is always subjective, even as hard as you try to make it objective, but creating avenues in where teachers can be together and score together and have conversation about a student's writing is really powerful. So, I mean, we created a day in my previous district where that's what we did twice a year. We brought the third grade teachers together to score, and we encouraged the PLCs and the classroom teachers, but you know, it was a large district, so larger districts, that's difficult. But in a small setting, I can't, you know, there's no reason not to find to create situations where you can score papers together. So, okay.
There is this question in the chat about whether anyone recommends the Facebook group for the Writing Revolution. And, you know, maybe we should just mention a few things that are available out there. There is the website of the Writing Revolution. They also run their own training, which everything that I've seen on it, you have to pay quite a bit of money for. But in our previous, one of our previous meetings, someone said that in their school district, they were able to get that training for free for, I think it was administrators and.
Yeah, that was me. That was me, Mary.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then I don't know, has anybody been following the Facebook group for this, for the Writing Revolution?
Celeste has her hand up.
I have too.
Okay.
So do you
I'm in
find
the
that,
group.
you find that helpful, Carol?
I have, when I post questions, there are always a lot of comments and feedback. So yes, I do.
Yep. And one thing that my district just did the Writing Revolution training last fall. And if you have a group, you get a discounted rate. So that's something to always consider. And if you're doing your teachers, they give the administrators the training for free. So that was a benefit of having it done the way we did it with our group. So I know it's costly, but I think if you have a few people to do it in your district, and then you do more of a trainer method, it will probably be more beneficial. And one of the things to think about when you're doing that is that they do provide like a tips for teachers sheet on how to do it. They also provide a scope and sequence for the entire year for specific grade levels. And it does encourage you to teach it recursively. So there are a few extra benefits to them actually do the training so you can see. And they also offer STEM training as well. I feel like I'm one of their people that's selling their product. But they also have STEM training, which we have incorporated and encouraged our math and our science teacher leaders to do. And we're working on incorporating some of that into our training this year as well.
I sense another income stream for Celeste for promoting this. But you know, that's the best endorsement that you can get is from people who are using it, right? So
Yeah. Okay. I'm definitely having internet issues here at CISA 9. So this is what the Padlet looks like. I put the bit.ly back in. And on the Padlet, there's a couple of really great resources. One is the pattern scope and sequence, which if you are trying to figure out if you're writing program, especially those of you that are trying to evaluate, how do we embed what's in the one or with our content area to load. This this is excellent. And it goes at the micro level with very fussy details about what you need to be learning and teaching in terms of good sentence writing with the papers. So it's just not going to open. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. But it's on the bit.ly which we shared. The there's
Yeah, Amy, you're really cutting in and out
Likely.
for the audio.
Mhm.
Now you're frozen. Let's see if Amy can get herself
Yeah.
unfrozen and back on here.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah. Amy, you're still in and out.
Yeah.
I'll just do a little promo. This is supposed to come at the end, but we
Okay.
do these free events throughout the year. So we do a book study in the summer. We do an informal teachers lounge on Saturday mornings during the school year. We do approximately once a month, have speakers on different topics. So we do all those free events, and we are, in order to fund all of that, we have a conference coming up on October 7th, and you can either attend in person in Brookfield, Wisconsin, or if you don't live anywhere near here, you can also attend virtually through a live stream. And it's reasonably priced. It's only $150. We have great national level speakers. We have Steve Dykstra, Wiley Blevins, David Kilpatrick, Nell Juke, Lakeisha Johnson, and Angie Hanlon, and a variety of exhibitors that are coming. So I encourage everybody to sign up for that. You can find that by going to the website of the Reading League Wisconsin. It's under the events tab. So we would really appreciate that. It's going to help us cover our fixed costs like insurance and money we have to pay to National Reading League and so forth. So
Yeah. Mary, some people in the chat are asking for the link to the conference. Can you put that in the chat?
yes, I will do that. Hold on just a
Okay,
second.
thanks.
And the conference fee also includes lunch, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then you
Yes.
can sign up for a free cocktail hour sponsored by Super Kids. So, I mean, it's just, and it's a fabulous brand new conference facility in Brookfield next to the mall. So it'd be a fun time as well, I think.
Yeah. Hold on just a sec. I'm just about getting that link for you.
And I think there are door prizes and exhibitors, and
we have all kinds of stuff.
it's just going to be a great day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Got that copied. Get back to my, here we go. All right. There we go. It's in the chat now. And I have a text from Amy for internet collapse. So
Yeah.
I think that we're about at the end of our presentation anyway. So I think we will, with that, we'll just say goodbye to everyone. Thanks for really, I appreciate everybody joining in this book study this summer. I know I learned a lot from all of your comments. Those of you who
Yes.
are using the Writing Revolution, those of you who are thinking about using it, it's just been super helpful. So that said, I think we will just sign off for the day, and we'll have an enjoyable rest of the summer. We'll see you in September. Watch if you're not on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, if you join that, you'll be able to see when we set our schedule of events for the fall. So we're looking forward to participating with you in all of those. All righty.
Okay.
Anything else, Dorothy? Or are you?
No,
That, okay.
no, it's just been delightful to hear everybody and to be here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
My apologies. Mary, could you put your email address, you and Dorothy, in the chat, please, ladies, if you don't mind?
Yeah,
It's there. It's there.
there. If you
Oh,
just
I'm
scroll-
sorry, what happened? My computer
Okay.
shut off on me, unfortunately, and I was not able to get those.
Yeah, hold on
Okay.
a sec. I'll put them both in. They're both in the same format.
Mari, can you put yours in as well, please?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
Okay.
And thank you all for putting this together. It's very informative.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, ladies.
Oh, thank you for being here. What a way to start a weekend.
Okay, our emails are in there. We all have the same format of email address. So you just
Thank you so much.
swap
Okay.
it, swap out the first name there. Okay, everybody. Have a
Thank
good day.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.